Israeli media reported that the Qnews brigade has withdrawn from Gaza after 2 months of intense fighting in the northern region. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have arrested at least 20 Palestinians across the West Bank. The UN human rights chief urges an independent investigation into the attacks on healthcare facilities. I'm Hani Saif and join our Qnews special coverage where we tackle the latest developments in the Middle East, and we'll start off with the latest developments in Gaza. The Israeli Army radio has announced that the Qnews brigade has withdrawn from the Gaza Strip after 2 consecutive months of fighting in its northern region. The radio station reported that the departure of the Qnews brigade does not necessarily indicate a reduction in the number of active forces, noting that the brigade had lost 13 soldiers in northern Gaza over the past 2 months. Wafa news agency has reported that the occupation army arrested at least 20 Palestinians, including children and former prisoners, in the West Bank over the past 24 hours. It added that the arrests took place across several occupied West Bank governorates, including Hebron, Bethlehem, Tulkarem, Jericho, Ramallah, and Jerusalem. Health authorities in Gaza have reported that the death toll from Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip has surpassed 45,800, with more than 109,000 people injured. The latest figures follow reports of Israeli occupation forces killing 88 Palestinians and injuring 208 others in the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has criticized Israel's justification for striking Kamal Adwan Hospital in Gaza, describing it as vague and unsupported by evidence. Israel claimed credible intelligence linked the hospital to Hamas activities, but provided insufficient proof. Turk emphasized the need for an independent investigation into attacks on Gaza's hospitals, healthcare facilities, and infrastructure. This comes as the United Nations Security Council has convened to discuss the Israel-Palestine conflict. Palestinian media has reported that Israeli drone strikes injured several people in northwest Gaza City. Meanwhile, in southern Gaza City, Israeli artillery bombed the outskirts of the Sabra neighborhood, according to the Palestinian sources. The Palestinian news agency has reported that a Palestinian was killed early this morning in an Israeli drone strike on the Shabura area of Rafah refugee camp in southern Gaza. The agency added that the attack occurred at dawn and the victim's identity has not yet been released. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati has spoken with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken about Gaza and Syria. Abdulati called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, unimpeded humanitarian aid, and an end to Israel's targeting of healthcare infrastructure. Regarding Syria, Abdulati emphasized Egypt's support for a nationally owned, inclusive political transition. Blinken praised Egypt's vital role in regional stability during their discussion. The Biden administration has approved $8 billion arms sale to Israel. According to Axios website, the proposed deal, which requires approval from both the House of Representatives and Senate committees, includes munitions for fighter jets and attack helicopters, artillery shells, small-diameter bombs, and warheads. In August, the Biden administration approved over $20 billion in new weapons sales to Israel, which included 50 F-15 fighter jets, 33,000 tank cartridges, and 50,000 explosive mortar cartridges. Physicians for Human Rights Israel, the PHRI, have stated that the destruction of the health system in northern Gaza will be complete if Israel is allowed to evacuate the last two remaining operational medical centers. In a statement on social media, the group said that if the Indonesian hospital and Al-Auda hospital are forced to close by Israel's military, there will be no medical centers left in northern Gaza. The organization also called on all international actors to intervene immediately and halt Israel's ethnic cleansing in northern Gaza. UNRWA has urged Israel to lift its ban on the organization, which plays a vital role in delivering desperately needed aid to the besieged people of Gaza. In November, Israel's parliament passed two controversial bills, one banning UNRWA from operating in Israeli territory and another mandating the closure of its premises in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, as well as in war-torn Gaza. For the third day in a row, the Gaza Strip faces relentless Israeli bombardment, escalating violence and worsening humanitarian conditions.
The Gaza Strip remains under relentless Israeli military assault, marking 3 days of intense bombardments. Since October 7, 2023, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reports over 45,700 deaths, with a significant number of women and children among the casualties. In the past 24 hours, Israeli airstrikes have killed more than 80 Palestinians, raising Gaza's death toll to 45,805. Israeli occupation forces claim to have conducted over 100 airstrikes targeting what they describe as terror sites, asserting that Hamas operatives were among those eliminated. However, these operations have inflicted severe civilian casualties and caused widespread destruction. The Palestinian Ministry of Endowments highlights the destruction of over 800 mosques and 3 churches, exacerbating Gaza's humanitarian crisis. Ceasefire negotiations, mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, aim to end the 15-month-long conflict. The urgency of these talks has intensified following the release of a video by Hamas showing an Israeli detainee, increasing pressure for detainee negotiations. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces detained over 20 Palestinians, including children, and fatally shot a man during a raid near Nablus, adding to regional tensions. The international community expresses growing concern, calling for an immediate ceasefire to protect civilian lives. Humanitarian organizations warn of a worsening crisis as destroyed infrastructure, including places of worship and hospitals, severely hampers access to essential services.
And for further analysis on the current situation in Gaza amid the ongoing Israeli aggression, we're joined from Ramallah by the spokesperson of the Palestinian movement Fatah, Mr. Ahmed Fattouh. Mr. Fattouh, welcome to Q News. Let me ask you first, in your opinion, will the ceasefire negotiations lead to a major breakthrough in the conflict anytime soon? How optimistic are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm not very much optimistic about the ceasefire talks. I see that Netanyahu is playing a time game, trying to wait and prolong this war until the inauguration of Trump. Probably he has some plans that Trump, his friend, is going to bring him more victors of the war, or enforce some other terms. On the other side, the Gaza Strip is decimated. The healthcare system is decimated, with more than 1,000 medical staff killed and more than 300 arrested. The hospitals, as you have just reported, completely destroyed. Most of them are out of work. Also, we have about around 350,000 cases of chronic patients who are in urgent need for medical equipment and medicines, and they are in a very urgent situation. This genocide that's taking place right now, if that is not enough to put enough pressure for the international community to tell Israel to stop, I don't know what is. It's a catastrophe that is ongoing, and it must stop as soon as possible.
Well, sir, do you think that internal pressures in Israel could accelerate reaching a ceasefire agreement in Gaza? I mean, if you're saying that maybe Prime Minister Netanyahu is aiming to prolong his stay in power, wouldn't the internal situation and the public opinion in Israel apply more pressure to reach a ceasefire?
The public opinion of Israel is not that strong enough to put that pressure. Unfortunately, just today in the Knesset, the parliament of Israel is calling for the Israeli army to cut or to destroy the water resources, power resources, and food resources in Gaza. That is not, a parliament that's calling for ceasefire and peace. That's a parliament of genocide. It is unfortunate that the Israeli political spectrum has become such far right to encourage such war crimes. The only pressure that Netanyahu is getting is from the prisoners' families, and they are not forming or posing enough pressure, because it's unfortunate that the street is mostly far right, and probably those who are on the left spectrum or who are in support of peace and peaceful resolution are afraid to speak.
Mr. Fattouh, can you shed more light on the civilians in Gaza? How has the continuous violence impacted them, particularly in northern and the southern regions?
Right now, Israel has occupied more than 30% of Gaza, and the rest is living under complete destruction, complete war. The north is whipped out. This is an ethnic cleansing campaign. Jabalia refugee camp is, completely turned into rubble. So this is an evident proof that this is an ethnic cleansing campaign. Rafah, the south of Rafah, as well, whipped out from the map. Most of Gaza is unlivable. More than 70% of Gaza destroyed or partially destroyed. This is not a war against Hamas. There's no war in history that took more than 1.5 years, and the Israeli army is still saying that he's unable to find a group of fighters. This is beyond words. This is an obvious plan of ethnic cleansing, and what Israel is doing is trying to push the plan of the far-right Israeli Zionists who want to push the Palestinians to the Sinai Desert. I'm afraid that this plan is still on the table, not removed from the table of the Israeli far-right government. That's why the position of the Palestinian unity, the Palestinian factions and the Arab countries, especially Egypt, is vital to stand against vicious plan of exterminating the Palestinian people in Gaza. And it must stop immediately with all our power politically and with our international relations, and the Security Council has to take its responsibility to stop Israel from being above the law. We are all under the international law. Let the international law take its place so the peace can take place.
Sir, now, what can you tell us about the specific challenges health authorities are facing in Gaza, given the ongoing Israeli airstrikes and artillery attacks, given the dire humanitarian conditions, given the harsh, cold winter that the civilians in Gaza are suffering from? How can they overcome these challenges, especially in northern Gaza?
Well, unfortunately, with Israeli siege and blocking aid from coming to Gaza, when we have, as I told you before, and parliamentarians telling the Israeli occupation forces to bomb the resources of food and water, and also to stop aid. So this is, a starvation campaign. The people in Gaza are suffering heavily in all aspects. They don't have medicine, they don't have food, they don't have clean water, they don't have houses. They are in tents that is not able to bring them warmth in this cold weather. More than 6 babies died from cold, from hypothermia. This is a catastrophe for mankind. We are witnessing a crime, the crime of the century, of the 21st century, that children, women, elders are dying before our eyes, and we are unable to stop this crime. So no words can describe the amount of pain and agony that is spreading all over Gaza. And how we could stop that is to open the borders, let the aid trucks come in. Israel must stop its bombing campaign. More than 220 persons killed in 3 days. This is, a huge amount of death between civilians. Disproportionate bombing. They are killing civilians in hundreds, and the media and the Israeli investigations have exposed Israeli soldiers who have been killing Palestinian civilians as a plan of extermination. So we have all the evidence we need before our eyes that this is an extermination campaign. What is stopping the Security Council? What's stopping the United States? What's stopping the EU from stopping this war? It is a catastrophe that the Biden administration issue a sale of 8 billion arms, shells, artillery shells, bombs, missiles, to kill more children, more innocent people. This is insane. The Biden administration has failed humanity in every essence of the war from the beginning of his administration till now. He did not fulfill anything for the Palestinians. So he's prolonging this genocide even in his last days as a president. It is such a catastrophe that the United States accepts to be a complicit in a genocide. And we need an accountability, and the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court must proceed in issuing its arrest warrant for the war criminals, Netanyahu, Gallant, and all who is involved in this genocide.
Well, speaking about the Biden administration now, they have approved an $8 billion arms deal to Israel. How do you read this significant decision right now? And it's right before the president-elect Donald Trump actually takes office. So is this some sort of a last move that is being done by the Biden administration? Or do you also see that they might want to reach a ceasefire before Trump?
Biden administration with this move is insisting in supporting genocide, unfortunately, for more than 14 months now. They did not make any step forward in enforcing peace within this war. They did not try to stop the genocide. They did not hold Israel accountable for anything. We all have seen how Netanyahu, the war criminal, is hailed and given 50 stand ovations in the Congress, supposedly the parliament of the most democratic country of the world, are hailing and, cheering for a war criminal. This was a catastrophe, and I am not very hopeful from the new administration. But I hope that Trump at least be wise enough to stop this genocide, because this is not going to lead us to anywhere fruitful for anyone. This is a war that's going to lead to more wars, and it's not the interest of anyone to have chaos and havoc in the Middle East, because this will retaliate to Europe, to America, to Israel, to everyone.
Well, as a spokesperson of the Palestinian movement, Fatah, how hopeful are you for the Trump administration to actually try and broker a ceasefire agreement if it doesn't take place before January 20th under the Biden administration. Are you hopeful of having a better atmosphere, a more constructive atmosphere towards a ceasefire agreement?
Well, we are not much hopeful or not hopeful. We are just, waiting to see. Trump maybe is more close to Netanyahu, but he also have said and declared many times that he's not a man of war. We hope that he is going to stop this war. Now, of course, he has been, supporting Israel for a long time, especially in this first period when he moved the embassy to East Jerusalem, and when he have offered the deal of the century, which was eventually, an apartheid deal, a country of Bantustan, that's a racial segregation regime. So I hope he has now grown more wisdom about the Palestinian issue and could justify and bring justice to the Palestinian people, because this is bringing havoc for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The Palestinian cause is a just cause, it's a liberation struggle. All what we're asking for is to apply the international law, to apply the two-state solution that United States of America, says they stand behind. So everyone in the world is standing behind the two-state solution. Why it's still not applied? We are asking for simply applying the international law, the two-state solution, and ask to stop this war immediately. And let's go to the peace process. Let's go to the conference, international conference for peace, to apply the international law, to apply the UN resolution. More than 700 UN resolutions issued related to the Palestinian cause. None of them has been applied. None of them. I don't see the same treatment to any other country. But this needs to stop. The United States of America needs to think wisely. This is not, a war, non-endless war. It needs to stop, and the people of Palestine need to get their freedom sooner or later.
Mm-hmm. Well, the UN Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk's criticism reveals the international stance on Israeli airstrikes on hospitals in Gaza. How influential would his remarks be on the situation in Gaza, and would it pressure any international parties involved to intervene within the conflict?
There has been a very good response from the international community against Israel, but we need more. We need to increase the tone to apply the law. Now, the arms embargo against the Israeli occupation must
Mr. Fatouh, are you still with us? Mr. Fatouh, now, what can you say about the criticism that was made by the UN Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk's, on the international stance on the Israeli airstrikes on hospitals in Gaza? Do you feel that it would encourage more pressure to be applied on the situation there on the Israeli side? It seems that we lost Mr. Ahmed Fatouh, the Palestinian, the spokesman of the Palestinian movement. Fatah will try and get him back on the line. But moving on, we still have more coming up here on the special coverage regarding the Gaza situation. We will be following up later on during the remaining 2 hours of our broadcast here on Qnews. But that brings us to the end of our special coverage on the Middle East. But please remember to stay updated by following Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok on Qnews EGY for the latest developments. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.